Good afternoon, microbiology students. It's Mr. Olson. I wanted to take some time to talk about your assignment on microbe metabolism. Where really, when you talk about metabolism, it's basically how do you break down food, what do you eat, and what are the byproducts? What do you make when you do eat? Because everything has a byproduct, right? And so that was the intention of this assignment. And I mentioned on here, start by using your book pages 160 to 165. There's two graphics I like, and I'll show you those quick. The first one I like is here. This graphic right here talks about all the different things that you can make out of pyruvate. So these are all things that, and pyruvate is basically a molecule, any sort of like glucose or anything that's sugar-based. When it gets eaten, it gets broken down in glycolysis into this thing we call pyruvate. And then once it's in pyruvate, microbes can make just about anything out of it. And if you look, different microbes, right, like Streptococcus, they'll use the lactic acid fermentation pathway and make lactic acid. Saccharomyces will make ethanol, okay, so on and so forth down the line here. This picture that we're looking at is on page 163 of your book. If you use this, this should give you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? So you'd basically cover 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So what about 7, 8, 9, and then the other 9 on the other side? Well, the second graphic is going to be helpful for that. And so if it were me, if I was going to maybe start this, it asks you for the microbe and its habitat, its food source, and then products or byproducts. And if there's 15 things listed for byproducts or products, give me one or two, but please don't go further than that. Okay, so if it was me doing this, I would say, let's go back here. The first one. So just for the sake of keeping this easy, I'm going to say that for the first one, what goes in is this molecule called pyruvate, and what comes out is lactic acid. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my chart here. I'm going to type in my food source. We said that was pyruvate. And my byproducts or products, the product specifically here, is lactic acid. Okay. Oftentimes, these lactic acid producing bacteria, they're really, really common in a lot of food products. Yogurt is a result of this lactic acid fermentation as you ferment lactose sugar. Our microbe, it says in our book here, is Streptococcus or Lactobacillus. I'm going to use Lactobacillus. Lactobacillus. Okay? And it's really as simple as that. The only other thing we have to add is the habitat. Your book doesn't tell you necessarily where you could find lactobacillus, but if you went and looked online, right? So it says it's a genus of gram-positive bacteria. It gives you some more information, right? Maybe we could get more specific and say habitat, okay? And for a lot of these, you're going to find that um, they're just about anywhere. And so this guy is really, it's a common probiotic. You see Lactobacillus acidophilus, very commonly used in probiotics. Sometimes you'll hear about like Activia yogurt as a probiotic, but where can you find it? Really, intestinal tracts. There's really a variety of places, and there's not one great right answer, but you can find lactobacillus in intestinal tracts, those kinds of places. Okay, so just give a quick Google search for those. I don't need you getting too carried away with those. Okay, but that's kind of what we're looking for on that. Do that for this, and this, all 6 of these guys, and that'll give you 6 of the 18. Okay, so you're a third of the way through if you just look at this chart. The other chart I want you to look at is this one, right? This will get you a 10. So this gets you on the back page already. Okay, here it talks about we have a bacteria that can specifically eat hydrogen. The name, I would just call them hydrogen bacteria. There's really a laundry list of them. You can even go to putting their scientific name down if you want to. Okay, and you look at energy sources, what they take in. They do an oxidation reaction. They take hydrogen, hydrogen gas, they mix it with some oxygen gas, and they make water, right? So they basically are able to break down some hydrogen gas and turn it into other compounds. And so I would look in this reaction here. That's going to be the most helpful to you. So as you look at nitrifying bacteria that can break down ammonia, what do they turn it into? Well, these two compounds, okay? And so you have Nitrosomonas and Nitrobacter. These are common nitrogen bacteria. You can find these in the soil. These are what help plants actually get nitrogen that's usable. So you could talk about some of these guys. Nitrosomonas and Nitrobacter, again, are found in the soil. Those are ones that you could find. And I would be okay if you wanted to split these up and talked about, one takes in ammonia, the other takes in this guy. I have to look, is that, what is that? Maybe nitric acid? Let's Google it. HNO2. HNO2. Nitrous acid. Yep. So nitrous acid there. And so you have a microbe that'll take in nitrous acid and turn it into nitric acid. That must be if my chemistry is any good. It's a little rusty. Is that nitric acid? Yes, it is. So you have another microbe that'll turn nitrous acid into nitric acid. Okay. And again, this is kind of an intermediary thing. I wouldn't worry too much about that. What is the point of this assignment? Really the point is I want you guys having an understanding that there are all kinds of amazing microbes out there, and they can obtain energy in such a wide variety of ways. Okay, they can eat compounds that are thought of as poisonous, and can actually make things that are useful. Right, you're seeing some of that stuff. Um, so we got 10. That leaves us 8 that you have to figure out. Things that I would look at. There are bacteria that can break down hydrocarbons in like fossil fuels, like oil and things like that. And they make some byproducts that you can look into. Okay, I would also look at these guys. This is kind of a unique set of bacteria called methanogens. Okay, these things produce methane. These are actually a big contributor to methane in the atmosphere. Where can you find methanogens? The soil, inside the intestinal tracts, the stomachs of cows. Cow burps are one of the biggest producers of methane on the planet. And so I would look at methanogen bacteria, right? If you do that, you're at 11 now. If you use the oil-eating bacteria, if you look at oil-eating bacteria, you're at, well, what is that, 12 or 13? If you look at, it says microbes, we're saying bacteria, but it could be anything. You could look at another one like, methanotrophs. These are the things that eat methane and take it out of the atmosphere. So you have methanogens putting it into the atmosphere, methanotrophs taking it out. I guess my point is there really is a ton of bacteria. You could even try like, um, different types of flesh-eating bacteria if you wanted to. And just kind of look at unique bacteria species. You can look at some of these things that do some interesting things. I was reading about bacteria that can eat radioactive material, radioactive waste. Right? This is an interesting new type of find that they're finding out that a bacteria can actually break down nuclear waste, which is a huge deal because it's really tough to store nuclear waste once you're done using it for nuclear energy. That's a big deal. So I guess the intention is there is a ton of different microbes out there, and there is no way that I could give you an explanation on each different type of microbe and things they eat. But give me the microbe, its name, habitat, where you can find it, what it eats generally, and it might give you a chemical formula. It might give you a more common name. Either way is fine. And then what are the byproducts? Sometimes it's what it eats is valuable, like those nuclear waste eating bacteria. That's the valuable part, is that they can eat the nuclear waste. Some bacteria, it's what they produce, right? Certain microbes that are going to make ethanol. That's a big deal for biofuels and things like that. Especially right now, you can't make enough ethanol for hand sanitizer and things like that. That is a huge need right now, as you guys have seen in the news. Um, but we have microbes that can do that. So sometimes it's the food source that creates the value. Sometimes it's what it produces or makes that's the value. Okay. So we talked about 12 of those. Again, I would use these four, right? I would also go through and use these six, and then I gave you 4 or 5 more that you could also include in there. So I hope that's helpful. This assignment is really open-ended. My intention was to just give you guys a chance to look at really all the amazing things that bacteria can either eat or produce, and how those things are useful potentially for human beings. So I hope that's helpful. If you have questions, get a hold of me. Good luck, guys.